Imagine this, it's Monday morning and a global manufacturing company is in court. The judge asked them to produce 3-year-old emails for a legal case, and they can't.
Yes. So I was personally involved in this situation where a company chose not to keep their email backup systems up to date. They didn't even have a modern email system that would be easy to back up, nor the storage, nor the procedures to test it all. It ended up not only internally prior to the court case costing thousands of hours in time, but then ultimately they could not produce the emails that they needed. And I won't say who it is or how much it was, but it was in the multi-million dollars.
And that's not fiction. Cases like this are all over Reddit, the news, and industry forums. This is the hidden price of what we call technology debt.
It hits everybody. It could be a large organization. Today, our audience, we're focusing on solopreneurs and small businesses, but it can even hit you at home. If you think about all of the photos that you have on your mobile phone.
Yeah.
Imagine losing all of those or getting completely locked out and you just don't have them.
Or losing a computer you had for your whole life, where there's projects that you really love.
Exactly.
And then not backing them up.
Yes.
Losing everything. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hello everyone, welcome back to the Tech Coaches podcast. I'm Fer. I'm your friendly translator between humans and technology.
Yes. And as Fer put in the script today, I am definitely a person who believes that Windows XP should be a 4-letter word, outlawed and never used again. And we could even add something in the future about what are we going to do about Windows 10 and 11, but that'll be for a future episode.
And just because he didn't say it, he's Bill.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, today we're talking about technology debt, the real cost of waiting too long to fix or upgrade your tech.
Yeah, so it's not as complicated as a large enterprise needs to be. So that multinational corporation we're talking about, that's something that's at a different scale. For today, we're talking about something as simple as when you click to ignore on your Windows update. At that moment, when you're choosing to do it, you're kind of choosing to incur some debt. So it's something you're going to owe, meaning it's something you're going to need to do in the future. So, super simple example. We tell people, hey, when that little update thing pops up, either do it right then, take a coffee break, grab lunch, or make sure to do it by the end of the day, but set a reminder to do it. That's as simple as avoiding the debt needs to be in most small businesses.
And here's the twist. It's not always bad. Like financial debt, it can be managed if you have a plan. The problem is when it snowballs out of control.
Yes, for sure. So what is tech debt? So just as Fer was saying, debt is something that you are taking on and you will eventually have to pay for it at some point in the future. Now, some debt is not bad. It just needs to be managed. And so what you don't want to do, a great analogy is you don't want to skip making a debt payment in real life to a bank. You don't want to skip changing the oil in your car. These are things that you need to do. You can put them off just a little bit, but ultimately you've got to get them taken care of. And so what we're going to talk about today is what is the debt and what are the kind of the key topics that you need to think about as we're dealing with decisions made. Do I upgrade now? Do I upgrade in the future? Do I have the cash flow to pay for something now? Or do I need to budget for that in next year's budget?
And if we put it like the analogy Bill said about changing the oil, like if you skip it, your car normally runs fine for a little bit until it doesn't. And that's where the issue lies, because It's not going to be nor cheap or convenient.
Yeah. And sometimes what happens is this debt can turn into nearly a snowball effect, a little irony that we're here in Yucatan talking about snowballs. But I will say that some debt can snowball and grow bigger and bigger. For example, in the situation of the company that needed to upgrade their backup system, they didn't plan to upgrade the backup system, so they were stuck. And then when they decided to modernize and go from a very old email and calendaring system to Microsoft 365, they didn't have a great way to do it. They didn't have a way to import all the emails, things like that. So by making some decisions, you are choosing to potentially increase the debt, and some people do it without ever knowing.
And the thing is, the interest is downtime, data loss, and also I will say frustration.
Yeah, the frustration is a huge thing because I don't know how many rooms I've walked into and someone has assumed that something has been done because it's just the magic of IT. It's like, it's in that room where those folks work that are in IT. We don't understand what they do. Yeah, it just kind of happens. We always assumed that this was happening, and what we notice is that whether it's an internal group, maybe it's the person who wears the IT hat in your company, maybe it's a small company like ours, maybe it's a combination, or maybe it's a full IT team, people don't always listen to the recommendations. There's one I'm going to talk about in a future episode of enterprise IT that will frankly, it amazed me when I found it.
Let's start with, I will say, the most important thing for everyone, money.
Follow the money, yeah.
We mentioned that manufacturing case earlier. Can you walk us through that, Bill?
Sure. So lots of companies will hire an IT person that eventually becomes a team, potentially with an outsourced relationship. Sometimes another tech company will come in to help if they have a particular specialty. And in this particular industry, they were interested in cost savings and didn't want to lay out a capital expenditure, meaning a large chunk that gets depreciated via taxes over time. I know that might be boring, but for those of you who have to do that, you'll understand. And so instead of doing that, what they did is they kept really old systems. Imagine they needed 100 gigabytes for a backup today, okay?
Okay.
So that means tomorrow they need to have at least 100 plus whatever may have changed. And then the next day and the next day and the next day. So that's emails, files, all kinds of other data. It could be scans of contracts, lots of things. So what they were doing is every day they were having to delete the previous day's backup. And so when you have to go back 3 years to find emails, you can't find them. You can't find data. You can't find any of that. And so because this company elected to put off that, it caused not only internal time and pressure, external legal fees. We were hired to do the investigation and figure out exactly what occurred, how it occurred, and how it should have been prevented. And so this after action review says, if you had just done the right thing, it would have cost 1/10 of what you paid out in both legal fees and financial penalties.
I mean, and if we're honest, that is brutal because it wasn't even like a virus or ransomware or anything like that. It was just poor planning.
Yes, that's exactly right. The other thing, since we talk about technology insurance and cyber liability, I'll bring in that can protect some areas of this, but poor planning is not going to save you. You really need that expert level programming to help you structure what do you need to do now. So what we would call the low hanging fruit, what are the emergencies, and then what do we need to do over time.
And if we think about it like on one of the sides we work with, for solopreneurs, time is money.
Yes.
And every crash, every delay, every forced reboot is billable time lost.
Yeah. I can't, like the amount of frustration that is spent on dealing with some of these either complicated systems or things that someone didn't properly document. That's another area of technology debt that a lot of people don't realize. If they don't document how something is set up, save the passwords, how something's networked, you name it, and I know you know that I'm a stickler for this, then what happens is you end up with frustration and wondering, where was that email? Where did I store it? What system is it in? And so one of the things that we do is we have standard operating procedures to go through whenever something changes in one of our systems or one of our client systems. We make sure to document what the change was, why the change was made, and the goal is if we win the lottery and we're gone, but the business continues, that someone that we don't know can pick up that document and immediately help service the client or whatever we need to do internally. So documentation is often a hidden area where you accumulate technical debt. And it's wild because people wonder, why did I do that? Why did we make that change? I don't have any idea.
And if you think about it, Bill knows I come from a leadership background on my last job. Also having that documentation, it's so much time for the people you're training and also for the mistakes that they could do. Because when you don't have that documentation, in the end, you're taking time from your older employees that are doing the job. And the thing is, they may pass bad habits they have, and they'll pass it to the new employees. And now, instead of having one to fix, you have 3 or 4, because there is no documentation that is clear and it's without those bad habits to follow. Exactly. And I think that will also account for technology debt, right?
Oh yeah, it would for sure. So if you think about it right now, if we were going to upgrade system X, software, hardware, it could even be a phone system. Where were we? So we're taking a snapshot of where we are today. Why are we changing, right? So we're deciding this is what we're going to change. Here's why we're going to change. And then the other part is how are we going to measure that we got that change done? So if we're changing phone systems, for example, why are we changing? What's our outcome? What other technology systems need to be involved? Because it's another area that lots of people forget. They completely forget that they have 10 other systems touching this one tech system that's about to be upgraded. So that they don't know, oh my gosh, this suddenly broke, and why did it break? And I don't know what to do. And then that's, again, lost time, frustration, potentially working on weekends or hiring third parties to come in and figure out what happened. Now, all of those things start to add up. And then that point where someone wants to, let's say, take papers and just throw it and just be like, I'm done with the whole system. I don't want to deal with it right now. That in itself is more debt. Now, I have no problem with someone getting up, taking a breather, walking around and coming back and revisiting it, but just ignoring it is not going to solve the problem.
All right. Businesses aren't the only ones suffering. Let's talk about what happens at home.
Yes. So I get a lot of phone calls from the owners at our clients' locations, friends, family, you name it. And it's, hey, I don't want to lose all of these things, particularly photos of kids, videos, life experiences, things like that. I don't know what to do. How do I deal with it? And so in the event that you want to save those things, you have to have a plan. And unfortunately, you can't just ignore it and rely on, quote unquote, the cloud, because we could get into a whole other session about how many people get locked out of these cloud applications. And here's a hint, follow our account recovery podcast, and we'll have to link to that one so that you can make sure that's set up properly to limit the likelihood that you would get locked out of those accounts. Now, if you just happen to drop your phone in a lake and that's gone, you can probably do a quick and easy restore if you know what you're doing. But I've got to tell you, losing all of those things has a big sentimental and emotional value, and there's really no reason to do it in 2025.
And I can even add my own story, because that brought back a lot of pain in my heart and in my brain, that I had this old MacBook where I had like a lot of videos that I recorded with my cousins. We used to do like home movies where we would like get dressed up and do scary movies. And I like edit them really nicely. They were looking great. And we will laugh a lot. And I had them on this old MacBook. And my dad was like, I'm not a hoarder. I hate having things that don't work anymore.
Yeah.
I kept it safe because I didn't put it on the cloud at that time. Like, I was too young. And he just threw it away. And I lost all the movies. And I bet that if people will see that movie we did, we will be famous. So if you want to be famous in the future, do your backup and keep all your movies safe.
Yeah. Speaking of which, on the enterprise side, one of the things we're going to talk about is proper destruction of things like laptops and other computer equipment, just due to some of the chemicals and metals that are in there. But what we can easily do is review, all of us personally, how do we have it backed up? Did we test it? Restoring a personal backup is a little tougher. So if you need help with that, just reach out to us. We can do that for sure, but make sure you don't lose these digital memories. The other thing that I think we should add in here is so many people now have cameras for their home, apartment, the front door cameras and things like that. And the way that a lot of the vendors make money is they sell you a subscription fee. Well, what is that subscription fee? That subscription fee almost always includes additional storage. Because, for example, we're in southern Mexico right now, where people have vacation homes. So if your place got broken into 7 days ago, but you didn't know it, and you didn't have the 7-day backup, you can't provide any recordings to the police about who may have robbed you. So some of those plans are very much worth the investment if you want to protect your assets. And so if you really think about the entirety of this episode, we're talking about technology debt, so things that you're going to accrue, but at the same time, it also combines with sort of a personal insurance umbrella. How do I make sure I'm protecting the things that I want? So when it comes to small businesses, families, solopreneurs, it's the combo of the technology debt and then also just what am I willing to risk?
And also going back to I will say day-to-day life or home life. Also people always assume their devices are being updated and backed up automatically. And the thing is, it doesn't happen all the time. So you always have to be checking on that. And also there's people that will have those drive, I wouldn't say sticks. I will say backup drives that they have separately, but they haven't touched it since, let's say, 2015. Mm-hmm. So you don't even know if it's still working anymore. Maybe the humidity could have ruined it. And in the end, it's stuff and information and maybe pictures or videos from your family that you're losing because you're not being careful about it. And all that is still technology debt.
Yes. There is one thing that I want to talk about related to vendors, and this gets to the small businesses. When you buy a system or a service now, even a website service from a vendor, one of the things you need to figure out is how do I get my data out of there if they go out of business, if they change a policy, if you decide you want to switch providers. That is a form of technology debt management. And I'll give you an example. One of our clients that's an insurance agency, one of their largest vendors had an antiquated technology system. It looked honestly like Microsoft DOS. That's how old it looked. I was surprised that that was even out there. And then once I saw it, I was like, man, I don't know that you need to be using this anymore because this looks ancient. I cannot imagine this is up to par with modern security and backup. Well, a couple weeks later, they had an outage and people couldn't even pay their insurance bills. They couldn't service. If you had to switch from one car to another, you couldn't update the policy. So all of those things were done because that particular vendor chose to incur a gigantic form of technology debt. And all they had to do, this is the wild part, they built a new system on the web that functioned beautifully, but they kept their old system. And the decision was made not to migrate the data from the old system to the new system. That meant the old system had to stay up with all of its security risks. I believe that's how they got hacked. I don't know, but I believe it is. And the next thing you know, now they're down for days, costing hundreds of thousands of dollars, and extremely frustrated clients of theirs, meaning the insurance agencies and brokers, but also their customers. Literally a nationwide impact in a number of people. And all because someone wanted to save a few bucks.
It normally is that.
Yes.
So now they'll tell everyone at their houses, any person that is watching this video, how can we fix the issue we were talking about before about losing everything on your computer or your phone or any device you have?
So most of the phones, it's going to be we all know Apple and Google, right? So there are ways that those things can be backed up. You can also make external backups of those if you want. There are third-party programs. There's one that we use when we have to do some work for iPhones called iMazing, and it will make backups of like this iPad, an iPhone. It will get your text messages, your iMessages, your files, voicemail logs, you name it. You can back up all of those things if you want to. And the cool part is you can automate all of it. So literally, if you were, let's say you had a machine at home and you had a Mac at home, as soon as you walk in and your phone connects to your Wi-Fi, it immediately starts backing up that phone. So you've got your iCloud backup, and you also have the one through the company called iMazing. Okay, so there are programs like that, and I'm just using that one. We have no affiliation with them. It's just one I've found quite easy to use. But they're for Macs, Windows, iPhones, Androids, multiple devices that are out there. And almost all of these security systems as well, they have a way to back up their data, but you got to be a little tricky about how to do that. They like to keep it very self-contained because they don't want to be hacked. Like, you're doing it for the good reason. You want to back up your own data, but you can imagine a hacker being able to access your cameras is not something you want. So they tend to keep that pretty locked down. Now, if it's family photos, okay, piece of cake. That's iCloud backup or the Google Drive and the camera and film recordings.
So putting it simply, this is where I translate for people.
Yes.
It will be have at least 2 backups.
Yep.
One will be local and one can be from the cloud.
Yes.
And also, I will add this point, test them occasionally. Like, keep checking them out, making sure that everything is still there. There's no issues. And also, this is where I have to hook us up for our listeners. If you're too lazy, if you don't know how to do it, this is where we come.
Yeah. We can take care of getting all of this set up and making sure your settings are correct for sure. But I'll tell you one thing that is a really cool feature. So on your phone, you know how you can see things that pop up that say on this day, and it'll show you your old photos and videos. That's a form of checking your backup because it's not perfect, but if suddenly you stop seeing those, you might wonder, where are these things? And then you could look into it and make sure that it's backed up.
Here's what I like about how we talk about tech. We don't leave out the human side. Because when your tech fails, it's not just your files, it's also a lot of stress.
Yeah. It can be stress not only personally, but that naturally bleeds into other parts of your life. We all know something as simple as if you had a sick child at home, you're not going to be working as hard in your office that day. So if you suddenly lose some of these things, especially like for instance, lots of people come to us and they want us to help them back up their will, their estate plans, their passwords, and things like that, because they are either older folks or they are parents of older folks, and they're like, how do we secure and make sure all of this is good? So that's on the personal side. On the business side, about 65% of small business owners, and I'm getting this number right here, report major stress from tech issues. That's what essentially has formed the tech coaches. So it's not just downtime, it's anxiety. So you start every morning wondering, if you've had enough of these issues, what is going to break today? And in fact, I spent an hour and a half this morning with a company that had a broken tech system because of a merger that happened, and I had to go just boom, all of a sudden I gave up 90 minutes of my morning where I had plans, but it was a very important 90 minutes. So that stress and just the expectation that something's going to go wrong, it's real.
And this is where I will add an analogy that I really love, and is that tech debt is also manageable debt.
Yes.
Because you just need a plan to pay it down before not having it, it's your mind. Well, I wouldn't say not having it, I mean growing it. Because in the end, like all the downtime and all that, it keeps growing your tech debt.
Yeah, So our whole 12-month goal to publish all of these things and keep everyone up to date is to put this in a manageable state. So that's one of the reasons that we do this and that we put the articles on our website. So if you just go to thetechcoaches.com, you're going to see copies of the videos. You're going to see other information about what this is. It's not just a transcript. It's other helpful tools. That's why we're doing what we're doing, is because we know it can seem overwhelming and it can be very frustrating. It can create anxiety. So we want to do that and make sure that all of this is managed. And then we add a little layer on top of it of recent events. And the next thing you know, you can feel a little bit more comfortable about working with tech. In fact,
that's why I'm here too.
Yes, one of the ways that an organization would introduce me before speaking at their events is, this is the guy that scares the heck out of us, but he also tells us how to manage and mitigate it. So we're way less stressed, even though he tells us things that could happen. He tells us how to make them very unlikely to happen. And that's where we come in, is managing this tech debt.
Here's something we see all the time. The IT person or the IT department is the last to know about new business goals or projects.
Yes. So lots of people now have accepted that IT and tech in general touches every part of the company. So we all know that someone in a marketing department, a sales department, operations, etc., not only are they using a computer, a phone, but they've got email, and that's just the bare minimum. So what we're seeing is more and more department heads are starting to do what they should not. I'll say that. They are going to go sign a contract because they want a new tech tool. And they'll sign that contract without ever talking to anyone in IT or anybody who is what we would call a solutions architect. Now, in many small businesses, this role won't exist. That's why you hire somebody like us to come in and help and figure out what systems does this one you're going to replace or the one that you want, what does it touch, and how do we actually put a team together. So when this happens, all of a sudden, it's a new priority for that particular department, and depending on the sway that they have with the owners or the executives, suddenly people in the tech team may have a whole new priority that they're not even properly staffed or budgeted for. And so it becomes the sky is falling situation. It needs to be dealt with right now. We have contract terms. These consultants that are going to come install System X are already going to be here. It's going to be in a month. And then the next thing you know, IT has to figure out, okay, well, what's our priority? Is our priority to get that system in place, to keep the business running? What else do we need to do? So this is why, and this is a big, big issue, one of the things that we do when we do the one-on-one consulting with companies is make sure that IT or some kind of a solutions architect, someone who sees the whole of the business and understands tech, is involved at the leadership table, and no decisions are made. Nothing is budgeted, nothing is approved until they sign off on it.
And the takeaway, and I'm saying this to you, technology is not only support anymore,
Right.
It is strategy.
Yes. Yeah.
IT leaders, advisors like us, the tech coaches, need a seat at the leadership table because they can stop decisions that maybe like you don't need them, or they can even advise you in a better way to do stuff that will be less expensive or more cost effective, but because they know what they're doing. And maybe you're not as aware as they are about IT and what you really need. So I have to say this to the camera so people really see me looking into their souls and understanding this. You need to keep this in mind. They're not just someone to keep the internet up.
Yeah.
They're someone that allows you to keep working all the time.
Yeah, and we're only talking about the, let's call it the day-to-day operations to keep the business running. The other wonderful thing that happens when you put some tech folks in a leadership team or on department committees is they may know some things that would be beneficial to that department. For example, a marketing and sales department needs metrics. How are we performing? Are we hitting our numbers, et cetera? Well, someone who is familiar with technology may say, hey, there's a system that's out there that can do this. Why don't we work together collaboratively, like let's say a sales manager and someone who's one of these solutions architects or a tech person to say, let's find the right system, one that's easy to implement. How do we do a trial period? What's a contract look like? What's it going to take from potentially other departments to get buy-in? How do we train people, et cetera? So you're working collaboratively, and it's not just something where the sales manager shows up to the person in charge of IT and says, oh, by the way, I decided to buy system X. Here's when it's going to get implemented, et cetera, and never has that conversation. Now, lots of companies are guilty of this, but all you got to do is make a simple phone call or an email and say, hey, can we have a 15 or 20-minute conversation about if we were going to do something like this, how would we do it?
And let me give you an example about what Bill said. On a previous job I had, they had two different apps to do the same thing.
Oh, yes, this is great.
One was for W-2s that were working with us, and the other were for contractors that were 1099s. And both of them worked kind of the same, but you had to fill different things. So you had to learn two different processes, and honestly, none of them worked fully. Mm-hmm. And then at some point, they decided to remove the one that worked the best and just pass everything to the other one. But they found out that it didn't work like they wanted it to work. And we were stuck for like 2 years with the worst, service that we could have.
Yeah.
That took longer and was farther, and there were a lot of issues. And this is where I think an IT person or a consultant could have avoided all these issues and give us one solution for everything.
Yeah, I was going to say requirements gathering in the very beginning, a training plan, how you're going to define success as objectively as possible. That's really, really important. Yeah, you don't want to pay for two systems that do the exact same thing.
And if we are honest, all this could be avoided if we planned before anything happens. Mm-hmm. Like you can avoid redundancy, like you can have backups, have risk planning, and even leadership involvement, and that could turn chaos into calm.
Yes. Now, there's one other thing that we haven't mentioned yet, and that is, when do you get rid of a system? Okay? So, how do we move from a system that we have today, whether it's not any good anymore, whether there is a better product that can be implemented, or also, maybe they're going out of business. Okay? So what is your protection? And that is part of your technology debt, is if you're not putting a section in there to say, okay, this is System X, here's what it's going to do. It's going to last approximately 3 to 5 years. And then we need to figure out, do we need to switch vendors? Do we need to change something? And if so, how do we do it? Because ongoing management and maintenance of these things is a very key issue. There are a lot of people that have half-implemented IT projects and many things that have not been updated over time. That is a form of incurring that technology debt, and it can really go, if I'm using the mathematical phrase right, exponentially or logarithmically, where it just goes all the way up, because now we have a super big problem and we're completely reliant upon either that one system or that one person that knows how this system works, or somebody who wrote software code and now they're no longer part of the company.
Totally.
Yeah. I bet there are bank programmers making a lot of money that are in their 70s now, because some of these old banking systems were written with really old technology, and some haven't been updated.
And I've read a lot of stories where they asked to update them and also to do documentation, and they are denied because it takes time, money, and backups.
Yes.
And then they want to get new people, but they don't know what everything is about on the programming, because
you can't onboard a person that has to learn 16 systems that were made 10 years ago.
And then they have to pay this person that created all this plan and that tried to do stuff correctly a lot of money, because they're the only ones that can keep it up.
Yeah, great deal. All right, so we're going to talk of action. So what do you do? So number one, we know this is not going to vanish. Problems just don't go away. We know this is a normal part of running an organization and dealing with the technology. So it's not going to happen.
So there will be no more pep talks to the computer. Please work one more year.
Yes. So you're going to do, basically what you need to start is by doing a technology audit. Now, for our clients where we help with their technology insurance, that gets at where is the most critical data. So it's very similar to this, but we're talking about what systems exist, how they're all put together, is there documentation. There's a big checklist we can provide that will help you do one of these audits. At that point, then it's a multi-department discussion. No matter how big the company is, somebody's wearing that finance hat, somebody's wearing the operations hat, somebody's wearing the service hat. And then you have to talk about what these most important systems are, how are you contracted with them, how much do you pay, et cetera. So how do we do all of this? The audit comes first, and then you have at least one, but in my experience, 3 to 4 discussions to figure out just what do we need to do. And yes, it does take time to do it, but again, you're investing time so that later you're not dealing with an emergency.
And then this is where we go to the next step, I will say, that will be to make a plan. Set upgrade targets. For example, let's replace every computer every 3 to 5 years, phones every 2 to 3, and check backup systems quarterly.
Yes. Side note before we get to step 3, I love when phone systems get implemented and no one thinks, who's going to answer the phone? Because nowadays, nobody really wants to answer the phone. So that's one that I experienced not too long ago. Okay, let me get to step 3. So prevention beats panic. So by having a plan like this, so you do the assessment, then you're talking about what are our low-hanging fruit items or our most important items that need to be taken care of. If you go ahead and get that in the plan, these upgrades, updates, et cetera, for systems that you have right now, as long as they don't need to be replaced, that is your lowest cost and easiest possible thing to do. And you're pushing off disaster. You're also reducing your technology debt at the same time.
And if you don't have an IT department, I have to focus up again. This is where we can help.
Yes. So if you needed assistance doing that analysis, like I don't know what I don't know, but I know you guys probably do, that's when we get the phone calls, and the next thing you know, we're talking to them about what are your business goals, what are the systems that you have in place, what's your team like, how cyber security oriented are they, and also how tech oriented are they, so that if you're going to move to a super techie system, you can't go there with people who are, let's just say, ready to retire. You're going to need to go with people a little younger, and this one's funny too. Anyone who's, let's say, fresh out of college or high school, no one needs to assume that people there know how to use software programs or the web. They know how to use mobile phone apps. So anyway, a little bit of comedy on my part. Don't assume that they know how to use computers.
And this is a little commercial break. If you're a small business, a solopreneur, or a family who's feeling the weight of outdated tech, the tech coaches can help.
Yes, so we do this security assessment. As you've heard us mention before, we will help you build that maintenance plan, and we will also hold you accountable to it. So we have regular reminders for some of our clients to ping them on a regular basis and say, hey, did you do this? We were talking about it, and this was the day that you were scheduled to do it. If you didn't do it, would you like to do it with us, or do you want to go back and revisit that the next time? So we're trying to keep all of this, again, manageable, and your anxiety and stress levels stay low.
And for the larger companies or government entities, that's where our individual consulting projects come in.
Yes. So one of the things that some of our viewers may know, some may not, is the Tech Coaches is a brand at the company Rocker. And so I do a lot of the consulting on these projects that are, let's say, bigger than a 20-person company, bigger than a solopreneur or a family. We'll do it for larger organizations, everything from budgeting to staffing, making sure that things like the roles of internal IT people are proper roles, the compensation is correct. So the work that I do It benefits the owners of the company and the execs that are not in IT, but it also benefits all the people in IT as well as the vendors, because we get everything cleaned up, open lines of communication that may have gotten a little rusty. I'll use that phrase. That's a little more polite phrase than things turning terrible. And then at that point, once those systems are in place, we come back and visit it about once a year and just say, hey, how is everything going? What are we doing? What has changed in the business? Are we worried about anything? How are the IT employees and the vendors doing? So that's what happens. The contract, again, is through Rocker, but that is the parent company of the Tech Coaches.
And whether it's your home setup or your corporate network, you don't have to face tech debt alone. You just need a plan and the right partners to guide you.
Yes. All right. If you are part of a larger organization and you're wondering if what you're spending on IT actually supports your business goals, stay tuned. There is going to be another episode about larger organizations or some more complicated problems and how we've addressed those in the past. It's not necessarily for the small business owner, but it would be if that small business owner is planning to grow and use a great deal of technology in the day-to-day operations. And that is becoming more and more popular as people are taking on some of these AI tools. Whether that's a bubble or not, we'll get into it just a little bit. But if you're a fast-growing company or you're a larger organization or an executive in one of those organizations, that the next episode is definitely going to be for you.
And if you really like our video, please leave us a comment down below.
Yeah, please.
Also, if you have any topics that you would like us to talk about, or if you have any thoughts about what we have talked about today, you can leave them down below. Also, thank you for listening. Like our video, share with everyone you know. If you know someone that may get a lot of help from our videos or even us, please send them this video, send them our link. And also, if you want to see or follow us in all our other social medias, the links will be in the description below.
Yep. Have a great day. Thank you very much.
Bye. Thank you.